I feel like every time I see you, I just babble on about gear.
The main one that we had was like an ultrasonic bone scalpel.
Ultrasonic bone scalpel.
By the time you spent the money on that thing, you don't care, dude. I'll pay whatever, just give it to me, dude.
It did get stolen off of Clifton.
I don't want to out you if you haven't come out as Peter Parker.
We mainly want to shoot a lot of birds. Yeah, it's very awkward.
I don't want to see your camera roll.
My camera roll is literally brain tumors and blood and guts mixed with like my bikini models. Like, so this guy's a fucking serial killer. Like,
I actually have a question.
Ladies and gentlemen, animals and aliens, welcome back to my podcast show. Today I'm doing the third session of the Creator Sessions sort of group chat, where I sit down with a bunch of people in the creative industry who I've worked with, who are friends of mine, and who I generally look up to and admire. Today I'm joined by, sorry, it's a little bit sick. Three good friends, Mike Faraday, Michael Kopp, and Stark Lui. That's not his real name, but that is his pseudonym that he goes by, so we won't out his identity. He asked me not to. So yeah, three of you guys, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining me.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome. Mike, you recently made the switch from the corporate world into the world of sort of content creation full-time. How's that change up sort of been for you?
It's interesting, eh? It's I think I was really looking forward to it and wanted to have the freedom and all that, and then it obviously comes with its own challenges, which you work out as you go.
What were you doing prior to
So I was
being
in-
cameraman full-time?
I was in medical device sales. So yeah, I was just we had a bunch of different medical equipment that we were selling to neurosurgeons and spine surgeons and all sorts, and yeah, was in theater operating with them like 24/7 for the last 3 years.
You're one of the very few people I can say shares a degree with what I actually did. So we did a molecular biology and biotechnology degree. That's where we actually ended up meeting each other, and then somehow found ourselves in the world of content creation by various different means. Where did the camera actually come into the picture for you?
So I think for me, it actually started when I got my iPhone 8, which was the first iPhone that had the portrait mode, where it would like artificially blur the background, so you get the like.
Everyone all of a sudden thought that they were photographers. Phones came out, and everyone's just like, "Yes, I can do this."
Exactly. So I was like I think it was like one of the first in my like friend group or whatever that got that phone, and then I was like taking photos of like all my friends and stuff, and so that's kind of like where I see it, the like intro to it. And then I always thought like, oh, you know, it is quite nice, and one day when I have some cash or whatever, I'll get a nice camera. And then I think through COVID, I was gaming a lot, and I was doing a bit of like content creation sort of in the gaming space.
What do you mean?
I was playing a lot of Call of Duty, and I was doing a bit of streaming and making videos, putting them on YouTube and stuff. It just fitted with COVID and everything there. And then I think I just got sick of it at a point, and I was like, I need something that motivates me and forces me to get out a bit more, like meet new people and like do things and experience more of life. And so I was like, you know what, let me sell the gaming rig, put that money into a camera, and yeah, that's where it ticked off for me.
Sure. No, it's exciting to have jumped sort of full-time into the world of it now. And is it quite daunting, or has it been kind of almost a relief to kind of leave the corporate world behind and just be like, okay, cool, full-time content creation?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, I think. I think the corporate job was very stressful, and so it has been a relief to like drop that. But then this comes with its own challenges, and I think it's just more the like beginning stages for me. So like, you know, getting a good routine and like figuring out, you know, mentally how to, you know, maybe not work for like 3 days or not be like going to work. You know, you be working and doing like admin things at home, but you won't necessarily be shooting every single day or even editing every single day. So yeah, dealing with that has been interesting, but yeah, so far I'm getting there, figuring it out as we go.
Exciting times. Now, Mike and myself, we all Sony fanboys, or I don't know if you're such a fanboy. I'm definitely a fanboy. I don't know if we're in a cult. We might be in a cult. Stark Lui, you're the first creator I've brought on now who's not an official Sony shooter, so I hope there's no pressure there. Although you do use the Sony cameras pretty often. You're very, very proficient with anything camera related.
Oh, thank you.
Am I just in a bit of a bubble? Is there a Fuji cult as well, or is it just the Sony guys who are so diehard?
We mainly consist of old guys that want to shoot a lot of birds. That's the Fuji. No, basically, like Nikon and Fuji used to be friends, I assume, because it's just mainly a bunch of old guys. But for the last 3 or 4 years, it's been going a lot into the videography side. So a lot of younger guys like our age are starting to use it.
You were telling me earlier that like Fuji's starting to bring out cameras that are pushing more towards the cinema line side of things, or they're trying to
Yeah,
get
so
there.
it looks like they're completely skipping the mid range thing, or like the same range where the Sony A7 III might be. It's as if they're skipping that and straight want to go into the medium format or the cinema line of things, which I'm actually quite happy about.
Do you see yourself kind of sticking with that line going forward, or where do you see kind of the tools of the trade that you need to use? Is everything you're using now proficient for you, or are you kind of looking at something as like the pinnacle of what you want to get to at some point? I know I see the Burano every now and then. I'm like, that would be nice.
Yeah, I think everyone wants to have this like the best equipment out there, but over time, if you have been doing it for longer than a couple of years, you realize you only need the equipment based on what you're currently doing. So I only provide for social media. So nothing goes on like big websites or billboards. So it doesn't help I get a camera that shoots 6K, B-roll, all these things if I'm just creating for social media. So for me, I don't really think I'm not really so finicky about the more like bigger branded stuff. I just take what works.
I feel like every time I see you, I just babble on about gear and your eyes kind of glaze over, not really caring too much what I'm talking about, because I know I've got serious gear acquisition syndrome, like hands down. I know Mike and we chat, we just love anything gear related.
We're just nerds, bro. We did the same degree.
We just want to spend all our money.
Yeah.
Like, there's no need to have money. We just need to just do
Yeah.
things. Okay, that's super. And the story sort of behind Stark Lui, where does that actually come from? You explained it to me once, and I kind of slipped my mind a little bit.
Yeah, so my real name isn't really the best name for commercializing or creating a business, and I always wanted to. Well, let me say it like this: one of my previous employers I worked for somehow managed to perfectly create his brand around his personality. So I realized that having a brand that's more personalized instead of just having a brand with a brand name, you build a better connection with your clients. But my name didn't really do that for me. It's a very Afrikaans name, so it didn't really fit. So very religious. So I prayed, and I asked God to give me a name that that represents what I do and what I feel and what I want to achieve. And it just slowly popped up the name Stark Lui. And if you look at the translations, it is Old Norse and or Old German and French, and it's basically means strength from God. So that's the name.
Okay, and you've kind of just run with it, and that's become kind of your.
And it works perfectly. Everyone says it's a very nice name.
I DM'd you so many times way back when, and I was convinced that was your name, hands down. You told me your name was something else. I was like, what? I feel like embarrassed almost, like not like knowing you fully.
A lot of people feel embarrassed, but I'm just like, oh, it's a business name. It's like calling someone like Eminem. It's not his real name, but that's what everyone calls him. So yeah, it's a stage name. Exactly. Yeah.
I guess there's so many of the big YouTubers and stuff who also kind of like completely just rebranded themselves, like Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD.
Yeah.
So many. I mean, Mr. Beast. Even.
Mr. Beast.
Like,
Yeah,
so,
I was thinking the same thing.
I don't know if we need to think of any other weird names. I can't get my name like registered under any domains or anything like that because Matt and Alexander, the double barrel sort of thing, kind of screws me for any kind of domain registrations or whatnot. So maybe I need to think of a pseudonym there somewhere. Mike, when we recently did a project, we went up to Prince Albert, which was super, super cool. We had some nice time in the car to chat a little bit here or there. And I think I don't know if it was your first camera, but before your camera now, you're shooting on the Sony A6300.
I was. Yes.
Have you always been a Sony boy?
Yeah, I think my first camera was a Canon 7D. I think it was a Mark II. I don't know if it is a Mark II, but and I still have it. But I think that was kind of my entry into working with cameras. But very quickly realized the limitations of it. Well, I thought maybe it was limitations, but it was probably me who was limiting the ability of the camera. But yeah, I went into Sony A6300, and much like what you're talking about with the gear, it works. It worked. I mean, it worked for pretty much everything that I needed to do. The only sort of drawback was the color depth wasn't really good. So, well, I got to a limitation of it, but was fully functional, up until I got rid of it maybe, I don't know, 3-4 months ago.
I remember you had your Facebook Marketplace posting with the underwater housing and everything like that as well.
So, I mean, for that, and I mean, it was a great, I held on to, because I mean, most of the work that I end up doing is not using I now use a lot of my own stuff, but we get on jobs, stuff gets rented in, and that was just sort of a personal camera and cool to use for that purpose. And I do a little bit of water photography, bit of surf stuff. So I had a housing that fitted, and I moved that all across, and now I'm using the A7 IV with the new housing.
Shooting underwater stuff is such a different sort of world, I find. Like it's taking a skill that already is sometimes a little bit challenging on land, like just being comfortable, making sure you're in the right spots and all that, and then suddenly having to do all of that in the water with something that might leak and something like that. Obviously, like you've got a big surfing background. We've done quite a bit of spearfishing together, which has been very, very fun. How have you found translating sort of your filming techniques in the water, and what does it take to kind of get the best out of a camera in a foreign and challenging environment?
I think because I obviously, you mentioned we've got a bit of experience in the water, and I think it really comes down to, and I'm by no means like a world famous surf photographer, but I think the understanding of the sport is super essential. So you need to know where to position yourself in that circumstance. And I'm like an otter in the water, man. So like I'm very comfortable. But one thing I do know is that there's very little in terms of, because I think I'm going to speak for myself, but I think all of us are the same. YouTube is kind of where you picked up your knowledge.
Yeah.
Always say YouTube University.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't really have that with the questions that you may have, they don't really all pop up for underwater photography and that sort of stuff.
It's very sparse and limited. Like you can't find many resources on it.
Not a big like knowledge base.
No,
YouTube.
it's a weird thing. And even when you approach, I approach the brand I use is a Sea Frogs housing, and they're based out of China, and maybe they're getting better now, but their sort of customer service, they didn't really, when I asked like pretty specific questions, because everything's based on the parameters of the dimensions of your camera. So lenses and stuff, change what you need to buy. And they couldn't really, provide the information.
Super tricky.
Yeah.
And also just understanding like how much, because underwater housings, for those who don't know, they're almost as expensive as the cameras sometimes. You can get slightly cheaper ones, but they go at least like almost like half the value of a camera sort of upwards, especially when you add all the ports and dome covers and all of that stuff, and it becomes quite scary. And you can't really find many of them in South Africa without them having price tags that are scary.
Sea Frogs, I'm just going to say, are good. You can buy them. They're relatively cheap, and they're like a.
You find them in South Africa?
They deliver to South Africa, so you can buy and they'll deliver within like a week.
One thing I found with like Aquatech and some of the brands I've looked at, I haven't managed to pull the trigger because, like I said, gear acquisition syndrome, buy too many other things. But I can never find proper information on what it's actually going to be charged at customs when it actually arrives. Is Sea Frogs quite good with that?
No one's going to tell you, because it's different countries. It depends. That's not got anything to do with them. They very specifically say in their sort of in the email or in the information that they send off is that we can't tell you, but just be aware that it is going to happen. But it's around 25%.
Yeah, everyone always says around, but I'm quite nervous when someone says around.
It doesn't really matter, bro.
Yeah.
By the time you spend the money on that thing, you don't care, dude. I'll pay whatever. Just give it to me, dude.
What about those underwater housings, which is just a bag? Have you seen those? The bags and the Velcros.
I think there's one brand called Outex or something like that. It's like a glorified Ziploc bag. But
Yes.
you kind of like there's like almost
has
like
like a
a
thing for your
thread-on
lens and
filter that you
everything.
put on the thing, and the rest is just a big bag, and you can kind of manipulate everything.
If you're not gonna be like cruising underwater, then it's cool. But another good option is, and I don't know if you guys know Extreme Accessories. I don't know what they got under now, but it's,
I heard the name, but I can't place it for
it's
some
a
reason.
brand. They're in. I'm not going to say where they are. They're somewhere in Cape Town, but I don't know the exact name. But they are like basically GoPro. They produce GoPro accessories, so you can get any mount or anything for your GoPros, and they also do those G-Dome. You know, the G-Dome like cell phone.
Are they the actual G-Dome?
They make G-Dome the housing. So
Because that's what Chris Rogers was quite involved with a while back.
So they make camera housings as well, which are universal because it's a port that can kind of it's a housing that can kind of fit any camera, and then it's got like a kind of like a membrane at the back, like a silicone membrane, so you can. And I've not shot with them, but the guys are super. They know what's going on there. They can sort of custom build stuff for you as well, but it's not made for shooting like
being submerged properly.
No. It will be like 10 meters. But I mean, you could still shoot some underwater stuff with that. But for surf,
it's got to be quite robust. Otherwise, like
they'll fucking, sorry if we're not allowed to swear, but they'll
Did you see the episode with Forster last time?
No.
You're allowed to
Fine,
swear.
okay,
You're allowed to
cool,
swear.
cool. So they like will test it on shit, so you can they'll show you like it's strong, bro. So well, if you guys didn't do that and I'm lying, then sorry, but I'm pretty sure I saw it.
The sponsorship coming your way, hopefully.
Yeah. Jeez, there you go. No, but I'm just you got to give a shout out to like local oaks and especially when everyone wants to buy gear that's cheaper than expensive stuff. They're also good, and you can go speak to them. You know, that's a nice thing. You can go walk in and be like, hey, bro, tell me, put your camera there, test it, see how it goes, which is pretty cool.
Sure, yeah. Mike, you do, I'm going to say, a lot of modeling shoots.
Yes, yeah.
Like a lot of them obviously on the beach and stuff. How close does your camera always get to actually being in the water?
Pretty close sometimes, yeah. It's weird though, because even with that in mind, I still don't shoot with a strap. I don't know if any of you do.
Oh, they're annoying, bro.
I used to have like a little wrist strap kind of thing, but like after a stage, especially when you start like doing a lot more like video centered projects, like specifically, and you got to have cages around and mounting rigs and all those different things, like a strap just becomes a hassle.
Yeah. No, so even with that in mind, I don't use a strap. And I guess like the models are in the water, not me. Generally, I'm usually on like my 85 mil, like something longer, standing on the beach or on a rock or something. But yeah, I've had one or two like pretty close calls. I've slipped off a rock before, like nearly, like yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring back any PTSD, but I remember you telling me a while back I think you bought a new 24-70 lens.
Yeah.
And then the first day it got stolen on a shoot.
It definitely wasn't the first day, but it did get stolen off of Clifton. Yeah.
That is also crazy.
Yeah, the model and I, we had Shame. She probably lost out even more than I did, but it was like my camera bag and then her bag with like outfits and stuff, and her car keys, her cell phone, like everything. And we were probably like not even 10 meters away, like maybe 8 meters.
What do you mean? So I just checked it while you were like
literally
turning
like
away,
turned to like take a few shots like on a corner or something, like just not paying attention. Look back, or we were walking back, bag's gone. So they just go and like drop a towel over it and then.
That's why always the bag is always on my back.
That since then, every time, and obviously have insured all my gear and stuff now.
Because of that, do you operate quite light and nimble on the shoots now? Or what kind of gear do you take with you on the shoots?
So I shoot on a 35 and an 85. So I just shoot primes. If it's sort of portraity, like fashion kind of work, I like really want like crazy depth of field. So I'm one of those wide open boys. So shooting prime. So just 35 and 85. Got a small bag.
That makes it a lot easier, I think, and takes a lot of the risk away.
Exactly.
You obviously, I think, from every bit of gear that you keep buying, it seems like you angling a bit more towards the video side of things, slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely, we're getting into it. Yeah.
Is that something you want to sort of angle towards, or is photography always kind of going to be your main thing?
I think video. Just I'm always about learning and upskilling, I guess. So it was sort of the natural progression. Once I'd sort of not mastered photography, but like really got a good grip of handling most photo projects that could come at me. Then I was like, okay, well, now I've got to get into video and learn that whole world. And yeah, it's interesting, but I'm definitely angling towards doing a lot more video work. I feel like you could charge a bit more, depending. It's probably debatable, but yeah, a lot of video projects offer a bit more budget than photo projects.
How have you found the photo project, specifically in the modeling sort of arena? Is there actual budget for it, or is it more of a passion for photography that kind of keeps that industry going? Or is that an actual sort of, okay, cool, working with different agencies and stuff there, that's like a regular recurring income can be made from those specific types of shoots?
I'm sure it can be if you got in early with a couple of the agencies and stuff. And I guess also once you've like built a name for yourself, then you sort of get just privately people coming to you for those kinds of shoots. Yeah, so it's possible. I guess it depends, but I wouldn't say it's a very high paying industry, like off the bat.
Most of the people I've chatted to, they're basically doing, even if they showcase that almost as their entire sort of portfolio, they're kind of doing that as their passion for photography, and that's what's exciting. They enjoy doing those kind of shoots, but they've always got something else that they're doing that's a bit more corporate sort of facing, that actually sort of pays the bills a lot more consistently.
That's exactly me, and I'm sure that's like most of us actually, is this the stuff that we post on our socials and all that is probably not the work that you're doing every day.
Oh, no, fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you think we have to sort of post for the type of work we want to be attracting? And this is kind of an open-ended question to everyone, or is it like, how are you guys finding the relationship sort of with social media and what you're actually showcasing in portfolios and show reels and all of that?
It's a tough one. I would say I can only speak from my experience. I definitely want to get more work in the line of the model work and fashion work, which is what I'm posting on my socials, and it's what I like and what I enjoy a lot. So I'd like more work to come in that way. So I'm trying to attract that audience. And then I think for like more corporate-y stuff, I've got separate portfolios, PDFs in my website and so on, that I'll rather like send through pictures to other potential clients when I'm looking for like more like bread and butter work.
Yeah. Stark Lui, your socials is like, I'm not gonna put you in a little box, except I'm gonna try to, maybe like a circular in enclosure. Your socials is very much sort of, in my opinion, kind of apparel, activewear, short format socials sort of focused. Like that's a lot of the content that I'm seeing on your sort of social media. Is that kind of just the stuff you're trying to put out, or is that the main sort of work that you're doing kind of on a day to day?
That's the main sort of work that I'm doing. Yeah. So yeah, most of the stuff you see on my social media is what I'm shooting 90% of the time. So I'm very lucky for like that. But what I also, what you mentioned, because you post, or what I also saw is people post just like the models, but they get booked for like product shoots.
Yeah.
And then the clients see the models, but then they're like, hey, nice photos, can I use you for a product shoot?
So models works really well for marketing in general. If you want to make yourself look like a good photographer quickly, get good models.
So that's what I see most accounts also do, is they just post the stuff that sells on social media, but then get booked for something completely different. I don't know if they do that on purpose, but I saw with a lot of people that actually works.
I guess, yeah, it's a nice simultaneous sort of synchronicity that it kind of develops across everything. You obviously flying off to Bali soon.
Yeah.
Have you managed to chat to any brands that you either want to take with and work there, or any brands like in Bali and that side?
So I can't really work with brands in Bali because I don't have a work visa. So
okay, yeah, you got to be full holiday mode.
Yeah,
we're not sending this to the Bali official people, yeah.
Yeah, to the conglomerate there. No.
Do you have to be quite careful about reaching out to people, or is it just
No, not really. Hey, it's more like, so if I'm taking brands across there from here, technically like the transaction takes place here and the payment and the taxes are paid here, so it's fine. I'm not I'm like actually doing the shooting there, but it's not the like financial work. So I can't work with like barley brands or barley people directly, or they can't employ me there. But I can take brands across, and yeah, I've been chatting with quite a few. I've got a few on board, which is great. Super happy and excited about that. But yeah, it was a lot of pitching and a lot of rejections, or just like no response from
Have a lot of brands like outwardly just said no to things, or is it just a case of you don't really get through and it's just not really hearing back?
It's a bit of both. I would say most of the time you don't really get through and not hearing back, but that's also just, I guess, depending on the caliber of brand that you're pitching to. But yeah, a few of them have also just said like, listen, we just don't have budget for this kind of thing. So
No, fair enough. You jetting across to Greece shortly as well. Is camera and tow going with you, or is it purely chilling out?
It's a bit of a holiday vibe. I find it's quite difficult I really like enjoying myself, so I find it hard to not do that. You know what I mean, and focus on the camera. But I'm at the same time I'm like going very light weight, but I will bring the camera with. More out of the interest of just shooting some stills. Maybe there's a nice landscape or something. I've been getting into doing prints now, and I could maybe get.
You said you were putting your prints up at which gallery?
It's not a gallery. It's Chardonnay Delhi. They do like they'll exhibit someone's work for like a month. So I've got coming now in June. I'm putting some work up.
Where did you have everything printed? Was it just through Orm's Print Room? Or?
No, so another local brand, I guess, and maybe you wouldn't really know about them because they're kind of hidden away. I think they're in Joburg as well, but it's a wet ink, and they're like a fine arts printing house. They're really good.
Okay.
Really fascinating. The guys that work there, or the people, let me say the people, because I've only been working with dudes, but there's obviously probably some girls as well. They're really helpful, and like, you know, when it comes to editing images, you'll know this. You know, like, I don't know if you've done any prints.
I haven't done any prints yet. I want to.
Yeah. So you'll notice there's like because obviously the calibration of screens and stuff is like it's different to like what it's going to look like in real life. So like they're super cool with like bringing you in there, helping you make sure that you. It's quite a technical thing with what they did with me with this whole like Photoshop. I don't know what it's called really, but anyways, that's
my only understanding of it is that like typically our screens are, I think, in the sRGB color gamut, and then any printing stuff is in the Adobe RGB.
No,
is it more technical than that?
It's more technical. So like they.
I'm a real novice here.
So they're like they're into like to like a lot of good artists coming in there, and they'll have like a certain calibration. So you get those calibrating spiders that you can like put on your screen and they'll do the thing for you. So they'll be calibrated to like what light you view your monitor under. So like I've got mine. I went in to try to get it calibrated. I've got to go back and do it again. But they gave me these like these Photoshop actions that I never even knew this was a thing you could do in Photoshop because it's not really my space. But you apply this action and like it'll apply to all of your. So like now when I do an edit, once I'm finished on my Lightroom, I put it into Photoshop, I apply this action, and it's like basically does the same. It's like a back route of like calibrating my screen, but it's to like, I think it's 6,000 Kelvin light. So like how you would imagine your image to get the best visual under what light you're viewing it. If that makes sense. I don't know if
is that to do with like the environment that you're generally in and the lights that are like on in the room?
Yeah,
or?
I guess it's super specific. Like if you were like, mine are to live on a wall, man, like in someone's house, and obviously that's going to be varied. But like
so like the space that it's going to be viewed in. Wow.
So it'd be the same as like you want the end result is that your visual on your monitor is what it looks like in the print, right? But you would have to then calibrate your screen. So when you go into edit zone, your screen is now, you change the calibration over, and I could be butchering this. I've not done this yet, but this is the concept that I understand from them. And then it's imagined that you're under.
So it like switches you over to basically so you can see it in a way that it would be printed, basically.
Yeah, so you get it precise because you
recalibrates
can't.
it,
I mean, think about it. Like, because I had done this and I went through and I did. You can go down there, get test prints as well, which is helpful, and they'll help you even tweak it in the store as well to get that for you. But like, imagine now you go and run fucking 10 prints and you spend $5,000, and now those prints are all wrong colors, and you're like, sick, dude. Yeah. So anyways, I mean, veering off the track, they're real cool. It's a good place to go get prints done. Go speak with them. The guy helping us, Darren, he's pretty sick, and also my artwork now gets stored on their database, so that like if my it's the first time I'm exhibiting anything, if they go well, then I can just be like, hey, dude, print me some more, because 100 people just ordered them, but that's not going to happen. But yeah.
That's such a cool process.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know what's even more, sorry, if you want to go through.
No.
What's super interesting, which I was like, what the fuck is this? You go in, they had like behind their like desk, they've got like this like black room with like a dolly kind of slider thing, and then I think they had like a phase 1 camera.
Oh really? The 100 megapixel,
dude. Then they shoot with like a 100 mil macro lens. And I was trying to work out what this is. So what they do is they'll take so like an artwork, like you want to create prints for your artwork. You don't want to give people your like as a painting or something like that.
Yeah.
They'll chuck it up on this wall, and then they will shoot macro shots of it, okay, and then restitch it. So you've got medium format macro, so you get the most finest detail, and they restitch it into an image and they print it, so that you can now sell that as like the most high quality print, dude.
So it's like indistinguishable from the like, original.
Yeah.
Those file sizes must be monstrous.
Monstrous.
That is so crazy. I always wondered like how they actually take like original artworks and bring them into sort of print format. I don't imagine it's like a little scanner app on the phone, like a little PDF thing here.
I try to run tests of my, like an idiot, but I try to run tests of my own, because I've also got all the proper printers, and I was like, well, let me go and do a color check on my like fucking normal printer that I have. And I couldn't even print it out, but so it's cool. Go check them out if you want, like, and just for pure gears, like go and print one of your pictures, because it looks cool, man. Like when you see a picture that's in real life on paper, it's cool.
Do you have any of your own prints hanging up anywhere, like in the posse?
No, I've got there's a couple hanging at some mate's house and my parents' house, and I envision after I'm running 10 prints, I think, or 8 prints in this exhibition, and I envision all of them to live on my wall after this this month, because I don't know if anyone's going to buy them, but yeah, I think the problem is for me, and I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but I end up disliking a lot of what I do after a while, just because I do a lot of editing, and you end up seeing the same thing forever and ever, always. So having it on your wall, you may just be like, that's it, but I don't really want to see this anymore, you know.
I've found editing has killed my enjoyment of almost any kind of music. Like, especially if it's any sort of vaguely trendy social media-esque related thing. Especially like in the fashion sort of thing, you end up using the same audio for how many different things, or the same artless tracks, however long. And after you've edited this thing for 50 hours and watched it 120, 30, or 100 and 200 times, and your PC's crashed 5 times while trying to render it out and all of those things, you hear this audio again, and if it comes up randomly, you just get like PTSD coming through, and it's absolutely, I can see you laughing, you know the struggle. How many TikToks have we done that?
Sure, too much, too many.
Oh, no, it's been a wild sort of ride. I don't think I've actually ever asked you, how did you get into the whole creative space? Where did a camera land into your hands, and where did you get roped into? Because we all, I think, come from very sort of different backgrounds. Mike, and obviously from the BSc world, who accidentally stumbled into it.
Very long story, but I always enjoyed movies. And still my main goal is to become a film director or go into the cinematography side of things. The film industry.
What sort of side of the film industry?
What do you mean?
DP,
no, more sort of like genre. Is there some kind of like a movie of reference that you'd be like, I want to make that? Or
going a bit off topic from your question, I want to create a studio like Universal Studios. I want to be the owner of the studio where I'm 55 years old, I can just show up in my pajamas, walk in because it's my studio, and there's like different blocks, and each block is shooting like the fifth Avengers movie, or so that's basically like Universal Studios. That's the goal I want to go into, not necessarily the genres, but if obviously I'll have to make movies to get to that point sometime, then I would like to make similar to like anime style.
Okay.
Very strange, but I've always had the idea if I can capture anime in like real life without it looking like an anime, but if you just get the vibe that you get when you watch an anime.
I feel like your short format stuff actually starts pushing in that sort of direction where it feels
all my
a little bit like that.
inspirations and angles and stuff. Like someone would say, no, Casey Neistat is my like role model. To me, it's Attack on Titans and Demon Slayers.
Okay, so Studio Ghibli's up on that list there.
Yeah, no, I love anime. But anyway, back to your question. And my father always did like online preaching and stuff. So there's always a camera there. So always had cameras around us since a very young age, and they always filmed like home movies and stuff. And then I believe it was fourth grade, my father got a new camera and I started playing with his camera. In sixth grade, I was like, no, this is definitely what I'm going to do one day, become a director, do anything in the media side of things. And then I didn't study anything because from like in 10th grade, they say you should pick what you're going to study one day or whatever. I said I'm just going to do what I have to do because I know what I'm going to become one day. And then after school, I immediately went straight into working for a production company, and now I'm here.
How have you found working in a production company versus mostly sort of being a freelancer? How do those sort of worlds differ?
I think in today's age it's there's a bigger difference because a lot of people try to, in my experience, they've worked with a company, like production company, and then they go over to an individual or a freelancer, and then they still expect the company's service, which is like super fast delivery times, perfect titles, perfect audio, but then there's a team of 3 or 4 guys working on it. So of course you can't, as a freelancer, give the same quality. So I think the difference that I try to give my clients is to give a more personal experience. So when they work with me, it's more, okay, we're sitting together, tell me your problems and we can see what we can do, tell me what you think, or just any concerns they might have. I feel like it's my job to make them feel comfortable enough to trust me as an individual. And I've realized that if you sell yourself as an individual, the trust is actually, they trust you more. But that's just in my experience.
Okay. And do you feel like working in the production company for a while helped sort of fast track your development to where you sort of are now in terms of learning skills and understanding how the bigger sets and stuff sort of operate? Or do you still think it was kind of a lot of self-learning with, like you said, YTU?
YTU.
I prefer YTU to YouTube University. I'm going to start using YTU.
Because then people think you're serious. In the production company I worked with, they're quite big in Cape Town, and they work with a lot of big brands and especially like celebrities and stuff. So the difference between a production company and individual is they work with teams. So I had to force myself to do the editing, do the shooting, do the audio in order to get the experience in that. So I had to say yes to everything whenever my boss came and was like, hey, I have this job available, who's keen? It's going to go until like 12 at night. Then I was the one who raised my hand. And that's how I gained most of my experience. But I think in a company, if you don't put yourself out there and just wait, same as freelancers, if you wait for the work, you're not going to get it. You have to go and find it.
No, that's a very true sort of thing.
But I didn't learn as much, but I think that was just the company and how they did things. But I learned how to be a hard worker, because in a company, the deadlines, I can't change the deadlines. They come to me like, hey, this is the deadline. And if it's 2 days, then I have to stay late at night or do whatever I have to do. So that's definitely the biggest thing I would say I learned from a production company, just being surrounded by hardworking people.
Okay, fair enough. Mike, you studied at Vega, right?
Yeah.
Was that I'm going to say helpful to your development as a content machine?
Yeah, I guess it would have been. I learned. That was when my sort of first entry into cameras and that sort of thing started, because I did multimedia design, which I don't even think it's a thing anymore. It was pretty much, you could learn it on YouTube, but I was a terrible student. So I would say that I didn't really go to class at all. But it did give me like the intro to like understanding Premiere a little bit, and working with a little bit with Illustrator and stuff, and a little bit of After Effects. But I'm sure it would have been great if my mind was in it, but I definitely wasn't. My mind was about jawling. I was still a lighty, so I was having a good time. And then I kind of found my way. I mean, I went through a couple of different processes, but I found my way back into editing stuff a couple years later. But it definitely helped to, and we were speaking about it just now with the Da Vinci and Premiere and that sort of stuff. It definitely helped that I knew a little bit of what was going on, because it's quite a daunting thing. You get so many people who be like, hey, can you teach me how to, they want to do a little video and they want you to do it. And you say, well, you can go and, just go into YouTube and have a look. And people give up because it's, if it's not your job and it's not something you want to do and it's just for gears, bro, it's probably the least gears thing on the planet.
Also, the learning curve never really stops. Like there's always some way that you can improve it, and more things and more features. And
But yeah, I mean, sure, if you go into Vega now, you probably, I don't know what the hell they do now there, but I'm sure it would help you if your mind was in it.
Looking back, do you think you'd go into a studying sort of direction again, or do you think you'd just go straight into it?
Man, I like studying because I enjoyed, bro. Like, I mean, I liked hanging out with people. I think that was the cool side.
And that's such a big part of the experience as well. That I think a lot of people kind of overlook sometimes. They're like, oh no, did you get the value for what you paid in terms of the actual like steps and things that you can execute on, but forget about all the different people that you meet in that time of life.
Look, I mean, at the same time, I haven't really gained anything from it, but I can understand, like, if you were, you went to AFTA and like you were a good student, and I was always the guy asking people like, hey, can I see what we did last week, and helping with my homework or whatever the hell it was, and that doesn't really bear well for you because people are going to probably get a bit annoyed with you. But if you were at AFTA and like you want to get into film and you do well and you make friends in class, I know guys that that carries through, and that's how this works. This is how we get work. It's people so like it carries through that if you were on jobs at college with this guy, and now this guy or girl, and now they need to bring you on, that's kind of where that's a good ground or like a good base to start your professional career, by making friends at college. So I think that's another benefit. Whether or not you want to sit in class, and that's up to you. But I think if you do well, it's a good way to get a good step in the right direction. When you get into the.
No, that's so true. I think that network part of it is such an important thing. Like, I mean, just knowing everyone is such an integral role to developing everything and getting a lot of work as well. Like, I mean, you've given me so many projects. We've all worked on, you give me projects as well. We've all worked together on so many different things. Like it's a very collaborative sort of space that everyone sort of needs to be in. Do you guys find most of your work coming from just either like referrals in like the creator networks, or from referrals in client networks, or from just random reach outs in social media? Where do you find most of the things are coming in nowadays?
At the moment, everything is just word of mouth. Like referrals. And a lot of my clients at the moment is also people that I've been working with for the last 4 or 5 years. They would like go off for like a year or two and then just come back. But I rarely find people just reaching out. I think that's like 10% of my clients. It's just the random DM or email.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay. Mike?
I'm pretty much split evenly across those channels. I think I get probably an equal amount of jobs from Creator Network as randomly people reaching out to me via socials, as client referrals. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty evenly split. I can't say one is very much stronger than the other.
Okay. Mike, where do you find most of your stuff coming from?
I don't think I've ever got a job through social media. So I think it's because I'm quite bad on it, and also I don't know if people would stumble across my stuff. But I worked with a production company, or like a media house kind of vibe for a while, and most of my work comes through that. But one thing that I've recently learned is, well, at least for me, and I hope it continues, is to make friends with producers. Or like to do good work around producers, because they deal with the money and they book you, and then if they dig your vibe and they can see it, then I've recently started getting referrals from other production companies or whatever that will.
What do you think is the most important for producers, for the DPs and people that they want to work with? What are the important things that they find value from?
I don't know. I think it's just being like easy to work with. I think like bringing a vibe to set is important. I mean, their job is, their business has got nothing to do with what we do. They don't care about this cameras and the editing and all that shit. They want to know that they're gonna go, they're spending their money in the right place. Look, I'm not a producer, so maybe I'm talking nonsense, but this is the way I see it. But they're doing, they've got to go to someone, and it's their job to find people to do this work. And if you rock up and you get it done and you bring a vibe and people are digging it, and there's smiles and laughs, and for me that's the way that I operate. I don't know.
Do they often ask to like see your portfolio and stuff?
That'll be what. Yeah, I mean, it also it's not the producer. So the producers, it's like they tasked to find crew, right? Yeah. And then they'll ask for your stuff, and they'll go to, like, I don't know, the director or the whoever's the sort of creative director, or whoever's in charge of the vibe, who makes the real final calls. But it's not really their business. Unless they're like, I don't know, maybe a creative producer or something like that. It's not really their business to get involved with it, as far as the way I see it.
Okay, but then how do they trust you?
They'll take your content. No, they'll ask for your stuff, but they're not going to look at it. You know what I mean? It's not. They don't.
So
it's
as
not
long
their
as you
job.
have something to send to them.
Totally, you got to have stuff, but it's not like. I'm sorry to anyone out there if I'm talking cuck, but it's their role is to, they're tasked to find crew, and the main people, in the background, they'll have a look at it, and or there'll be a DP and you're coming on as a camera assistant. They'll have a look at it. Sometimes that's tasked to me, to have a look at stuff or whatever, or for me to vouch for someone else is also, it's also an important thing if you're working with guys, like with producers. But if you can make lekker with them, then they're gonna more times than not, because they obviously will work with the people that they feel most comfortable with.
Of course,
and they're gonna keep going and saying, like, yeah, bring this Oak on. I know that his capabilities, the jobs that we've worked with him on, he can handle it. So let him come and play.
I think a lot of us focus on, a lot of the like technical aspects, maybe a bit too much. How good and how creative are we and all this, but I think a lot of the time what it comes down to is like being easy to work with, friendly, reliable, like consistent. Those kinds of things are like actually what really gets you work.
Well, especially in the zone that we're working in, bro, there's 100 million of us. So like, and then we all kind of, like, unless you're starting to get into the, the sort of high end DP range, we're all kind of sitting on a similar level, unless you're like a real star. And so like, if you come in and you got a cuck mood and you're talking now to the director and telling him this and giving this person a problem, bro, they're going to be like, cool, man. Like, cheers. That was the first and last time, bro. I don't want to be around you. So like the vibe is, well, for me, if I don't know. Maybe everyone who I work with thinks I'm an asshole, but I I try to bring
I assure
a bit
you
of
they
a
don't.
We
They
don't.
definitely
We
don't.
don't.
Yeah. No, the relationship thing is almost everything in it, and that reliability and stuff. And I think you very rightly pointed out there that there's so many creators now, and so many creators on very, very similar levels, that to differentiate yourself there's very, very difficult. So it's more about, okay, cool, do you provide a good underlying experience in the realm of actually being able to execute on it? Like, being able to execute on it is kind of the baseline. You have to be able to do that. It's about how much you elevate that sort of the rest of the experience and everything, which is a challenging sort of thing to do. Working with a lot of these producers, especially on some of the stuff that we've done, oftentimes it's very, very fast turnarounds. And I know you do a lot of the editing and a lot of the things you do on as well. What have you found are sort of good ways to communicate with people in that feedback sort of stage, where things need to get done the next day? It's tight on editing sort of timelines, and now you need to get this done and incorporate feedback and this so that it can be posted at 5 o'clock the next day. Any things that work really well there? Or
I would say, like, I don't know, bro. A lot of the time, that timing is like, again, it's you got also clients, that especially when you're pushing towards guys who are more corporate, or once they're working with the money, they don't care about the creative side, right? So it's not something that they understand. So sometimes you'll get a bit of a turnaround time that's wild. But I mean, because they don't get it, so like you can work on it and you push through as much as you can. And it's unfortunate because sometimes it's like there's a creative touch, there's a execution, right? And I can execute and it's good and it'll do its job. But there's like a creative touch that you want to put in, and that step sometimes gets skipped based on the quick turnarounds, but that's you can only do what you can do.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there's like a sort of a space where it's on you as well to.
yeah, I find getting that sort of post-production feedback, at least in my opinion, sometimes it's not really something we as either DPs or creators or photographers or whatnot can really dictate ourselves. Oftentimes it's very much about how the client decides they want to kind of feed it through to us.
That's what I was getting at now, though, is I think like it's difficult to gauge because everything is different, and especially when you're incorporating After Effects, for me personally, because that slows me down ever so slightly because it's a different workflow. Some guys work only on that, but it's also, I think you get to a point where you can kind of say this, and I can be sometimes a bit of a grumpy person when I'm editing because it's all, you more funny hours and things get weird and you get frustrated. But it's also on you to be like, look, bro, like I appreciate that you want it out in that time, but that's realistically, if you want what you want and you want it to the sort of
standard
that you want it at, we need to just push out a little bit, and that's also difficult when you've got a company that brings you on because they're being hired by a company. So there's like a little bit of a
delay.
But it's just you gotta also just say, like, bro, we need to be more realistic with this, because otherwise it's not going to work. Sometimes it doesn't work either, and you just have to do it. But I think communication is really key when it comes down to that.
I know you recently upgraded your laptop editing station. Has that made a big difference, being able to turn around those projects really quickly?
Well, it was the first time that I was experiencing issues like that. I was having problems with the laptop itself at a stage, but it's the first time when I ran into that. We were working on a podcast, and it was an hour and a half of footage with 4 cameras, and then the computer didn't like that at all. So the downside was I was having to work on another computer. But I think, I think for me now, I mean, I guess upgrading is what would assist. I think I've at a point now where the shortcuts, and I can't cut too much time down from what I've got to a point where I know what I'm doing, and I think the only thing is rendering time, bro. Rendering time is what is a killer, and if your computer's not up to it and it tells you it's going to take 11 hours to render out an hour and a half, but then that's a problem.
I found very recently that all of a sudden I built quite an elaborate sort of all-in-one PC because I the M chips weren't out at the stage, and there wasn't really a Mac alternative that was vaguely in a reasonable price point. Than building a fully fledged sort of PC, and I built it, was very proud of it and loved it, and it was working amazingly. And now all of a sudden it's starting to pick up a few hiccups here or there, and it's such something that I really didn't understand sort of coming into it when you're kind of going to be an all-in-one sort of creator, how important the editing machine that you actually have in terms of keeping up with all your actual sort of camera equipment, because it's very fun upgrading one thing, but if that editing process, if that starts becoming a hassle, then it just takes so much of the joy out of almost any project when things are an export error, or things are taking 11 hours to render, or you can't, just play things without having to do 4 hours of proxy dumps beforehand. And it's just, it makes things an absolute mission.
Yeah.
What are you guys editing on now?
I'm on a laptop wise. Yeah, I'm on M1 MacBook Air.
Handling everything decently?
Perfect, yeah. Just proxy my stuff in DaVinci. Exports really quickly.
Is DaVinci quite like, I'm going to say computationally intensive? I don't actually know how DaVinci operates too. I saw the nodes and I was like, my brain doesn't work like that. I can't do this.
Generally speaking, no. It's like very well optimized. It's a great program. Works very quickly, and there's easy like settings to change and things to make things run quicker if you need to. But you can, if you go deep in an edit and you have like a bunch of like nodes on your color grades and stuff, then it can can get hectic.
Okay, awesome. Stark Lui, what's the editing machine of choice?
I'm currently working on the MacBook Air M2. Yeah.
Handling things nicely?
Constantly I have to make proxies, but it's working.
With your Fuji, you were telling me it's got 700 megabytes a second record option.
Something crazy, yeah. No, I can't. It doesn't even work on
What
my
kind of
cards,
machine would it be able to handle that without having like a massive proxy workflow? Like, is there anything?
M4 Ultra, which has just come out on the new iPad Pro.
Is the M4?
M4 chip.
M4 chips out
on the iPads. So it doesn't make sense.
What?
iPads have like better chips than the MacBooks at the moment.
But the iPads are like the same. It's basically the difference is just it has a keyboard built in.
So one of the things we mentioned, MKBHD earlier, is saying is that the operating system is just nowhere near able to match the actual hardware specs of the iPads.
I always thought they were going to merge the OS systems of the MacBooks and the iPads and everything. Are they anywhere closer to doing that? Do you have any idea?
No, and I don't know if they're gonna do that. I don't know where you heard that.
That was years ago, where I thought they were going to synchronize everything across everything.
It doesn't seem. It seems like Apple wants to protect their MacBooks, obviously. So, if I guess the worry for them is that the iPads now have like Mac OS on them and they can run them perfectly because they've got crazy like hardware specs. But then people are gonna like maybe only buy iPads and not MacBooks, and then they lose that market share or something like that. So that's Apple's concern.
I'm going to segue a little bit weirdly here. Obviously, you've got a very interesting sort of medical background with all the very fancy machines that save people's lives that you used to cart sort of around there.
Yeah.
The doctors and stuff, are they using any like fancy tech systems with these, or how do these machines actually operate? I know it's not content related, but I'm just curious in general.
The medical devices.
Yeah, so explain like what do they do exactly?
It depends what machine you're selling or what company, what products you have, whichever company you're working for. So we had one that was working with Stryker's products, which is like one of the biggest medical device companies. They were the manufacturers and we were distributors here in South Africa. And so like the main one that we had was like an ultrasonic bone scalpel. So it would cut
ultrasonic bone scalpel.
Yeah, so it would cut bone with ultrasonic vibrations instead of spinning like a burr or a driver or something.
Is that just more accurate, or why do they do that?
To go technically, the idea is that it protects nerves and soft tissue.
Okay.
Because soft tissue is sort of able to vibrate away with the ultrasonic vibrations, whereas bone is not able to absorb those, and so it cuts through the bone. But it's pretty safe to use around like critical structures, vessels, and nerves and things.
Super crazy.
You have like a tool as well, which you can basically only cut wood. But as soon as you go to something else, it's not even sharp. It's just like this little thing that vibrates.
Exactly, yeah. So a similar principle for like, use in surgery.
And how do they actually run these machines? Are they running them on any like fancy computers as well, or is it just like one of those old school?
No,
Because like so many of the hospitals, they
it's like a console. I don't know what I could compare it to in the
Like the submarine console.
No, like
just like a small desktop console
not
PC
even,
thing.
it's not like a computer. Like it's like a machine. It's like a box, and it has like a couple of settings on the front or whatever, and you plug all your hand pieces and things into it. But that's like the brain of it. So it would look like I don't know if you know the EcoFlow it's just like it looks like a little box like that, and that's what provides the power to the
Super strange.
to the hand pieces and stuff. Yeah,
Different world.
so it's really like not like the actual the understanding of how it works like theoretically is maybe a bit technical, but the actual machine is like very basic. Yeah, it's just providing an electrical like current and yeah.
Do you think there's a potentially a lot more scope in the medical industry to produce a lot more content around these types of things?
Oh, massively. And it's something I'm going to be going into
How?
now that I've gone freelance. Did you say how?
Yeah, like surely privacy is such a big thing that you can't really kind of get around. Like how do we?
No, you can definitely get around it. So
Okay.
and I don't mean that in a like jumping through things that you shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean like it's actually quite easy to you as long as you know the basic like things that you should avoid. Like you can't reveal patient details or information at all. People's faces, any like identifiable characteristics of them. And you don't always need to, I mean, obviously, unless they consent to it. And you don't always need to involve a patient, I guess, with things like these. You can do demos on other bones and like all sorts of things that have nothing to do with the patient, really. So there's a huge lack in the space, and I feel like it's underutilized.
What do you think can be sort of showcased a lot more?
It depends. I think medical education is a big thing. So for all like doctors' practices and stuff, like most of them don't have socials and they're not capitalizing on that. And they're all, if you have a private practice, that's your own business, and they need to market and get out there and have like a proper brand identity like any other business.
Is it strange to have a doctor as an influencer social media though?
Interesting question.
I feel like so many of the medical people, especially like all the like skin ladies and all of those things, like they like being on social media is such an important thing for them because that's how they bring in so many of their sort of clientele.
Yes.
But I'm gonna say like I'm not going to call it a more serious medical profession, but like someone who's using an ultrasonic bone sculptor, like, do we trust them more if they've got lots of social media followers, or is it like kind of a red flag? Like, why are you wasting time on this?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it depends, and like there will be more specialties that will be more, I guess, better suited for social content. So like plastic surgery and stuff. Like most of them are getting like
the lifestyle stuff. Like you said, the skincare, like hair,
any like
diet
aesthetic stuff. Yeah, it's like all very private, and so it's not going really through people coming into a hospital for whatever reason. It's like private patients going to practices. But there's still, that being said, there's something like, that they should also be like more active on LinkedIn, because professionally they build like networks overseas and stuff, and get invited to conferences and things all over the world. And we have like amazing specialists here. So yeah, I feel like it wouldn't be a red flag to have good socials as long as it isn't badly done. It should be like reflective of
speaking to the brand.
Yeah, exactly. It should be like really professional and really not to be like entertaining, more to be like educational. So if you're a neurosurgeon or whatever, you could have like
life.
In another life, yeah. If we actually got into medicine instead of our BSc degree. If you're a neurosurgeon, for example, like I feel like you should be able to have, maybe content of brain scans or explaining like, particular niche cases that you've done and how you did it, or anything like that, I guess. It's like on a more academic, like educational level.
Wow. Switching from the medical and saving lives to the I'm going to say the the human thrill of driving fast cars. You told me once upon a time that your sort of dream was to shoot a lot of like automotive focused sort of content.
Yeah,
Has
and,
that changed? Still on the agenda?
yeah, I'm actually shooting. That's the one thing that I don't really share a lot on my page.
Yeah.
There's one or two posts, but it's I'm shooting a lot of automotive stuff.
I've seen one or two things about some Jeep stuff, I think.
Yeah, so most of the stuff I'm currently doing is detailing people, like just washing cars, and then a bunch of other stuff is just like an influencer trying to boost his brand through incorporating some vehicles. Or it's there's one guy we did a few months content for. His entire page is just driving fancy cars. So we just did some content stuff, very basic social media bulk content. So yeah, I'm actually still in the cast thing. Yeah.
You mentioned there and rightly pointed out that you do a lot of work with like individual influencers as well as a lot of sort of brands. Do you find those two very different sort of client segments in terms of how they operate, what kind of content they want, and how they sort of treat you as a professional? Or have you found any differences that are?
Yes, yeah. So same as what I've mentioned earlier, saying the difference between a corporate and an individual or a freelancer is I see it a lot with the influencers because the also like you mentioned, it's my client has a client. So the influencer is my client, but they have a client because we have I did this one event for Brutal Fruit, and then it was my job well, basically my client was the influencer, and then she was asked to provide a video of the event, like a highlight of her going from table to table, whatever the
And that's obviously for Brutal Fruit.
Yes, and then that's for them. But so they're very specific on what they want, even though it's going to be posted on her page or the influencer's page. So I get a lot of those type of clients with these influencers, and because I'm not necessarily the one they're in contact with, or I'm not in most cases even allowed to talk to the client, then there's always miscommunication when it comes to deliverables or changes in the editing. It's a mess.
I believe you.
It's terrible. So you kind of lose the feeling of where all my non-influencer clients make me feel like a important piece to the puzzle, because obviously I'm giving them equal values as what I'm getting from them. So it's more of a partnership, while with the influencers, it's more like you're just a worker. You're just here to do a job. And that can be quite, for me personally, not the best environment because it can get toxic quite quick. But the money is good, so I'm not complaining.
It's weird because there's so many of these like social media influencers, so to speak, that have popped up during the last, I'm going to say, 10 years at most, to the point where they're now becoming their own little media machines, and they need people following them around to create all these pieces of content for all the other companies or for themselves or for their own products and stuff. And they're turning themselves into their own little sort of mini businesses, but I think either just through big-headedness or too much going on or just naivete, they don't understand the levels of professionalism that should go along with that, with the service providers that they're using.
Yeah.
Do you find that with some of the like models that you're working with?
You know, not really.
You don't have to name or shame. Don't worry.
No, I won't reveal any names, but I'm sure there have been one or two here and there who have maybe felt that a bit, but generally, like most of the people that I've worked with have actually been like really nice, like really sweet, very professional, respectful. Yeah, all of that. I'm just lucky. I don't know.
That's a different vibe though, because I guess you're not. That's it's not a brand. You don't have a model coming to you and saying that they need a brand shot.
No, I do. Well, I work with influencers as well. That are
Okay.
essentially
So
models.
the same
Yeah,
thing. I see. I've never, because I didn't. I know. I obviously. I mean, I know. You know, where's Lewis?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I don't know how he approaches, but I've vaguely spoken with him. But I always thought it was a model that needs content for like an agency, like that they're working for. So they approach the photographer and be like, listen, I need
test
shots,
shoot, yeah,
so
yeah.
please can you come and do it, you know, and that's like a different kind of approach, because they're coming to professional to get something done professionally. Not saying you're not a professional, because that's, well, you know what I mean. What I'm saying is that like they haven't, no one's gone to him being like, listen, you know, we need you to have 5 pieces of content by the end of this month. Go and, you know, get it done. Whereas like these people are like, look, I need help. I need this stuff. If you understand what I'm saying.
Of course, yeah. It is like that. It's actually funny. It just made me think. I used to have this like joke, because when I was working in medical devices store and then doing this on the side, obviously I now have a lot of photos of like brain tumors and like crazy like gnarly surgery stuff.
I don't want to see your camera roll.
No, exactly. So so the joke was like, my camera roll is literally like brain tumors and blood and guts and like all sorts of stuff mixed with like my bikini models. Like, so I thought if anyone finds my phone, they're gonna be like, this guy's a fucking serial killer. Like,
You should do like a creative cross shoot.
yeah.
Oh wow.
Between your two top genres.
Yeah, that was an interesting.
We won't dissect that too much.
Nice play on words.
There we go. You caught it. Oh, one thing on some of the shoots that we've been working on together recently, those like sports sort of podcasts where there have been, I'm going to say, some like South African sporting icons. I've been super impressed by how like down to earth and media trained those guys are and how nice they've been to work with.
Well, I mean, those guys in particular are, I mean, that's their everyday vibe, you know. So like, I guess that that's how they have to be. Do you know what I mean? It would be really shit to be like, deal with the oak and he's like a real dick.
Would you say that's like a fake persona they're putting on?
No. They're cool guys. I mean, I don't think it's a problem that I mentioned.
No, not at all.
Like we work on a. Well, actually, fuck. I don't think I can say it. I can tell you who it is.
Yeah.
We won't because I don't know. It'll make it look like it's not we get brought on for jobs. But I think most of them, you know, also as being a sportsman at a professional level, you know, they're not that I'm not a sportsman at a professional level, but they go through, you know, they are flushed with this stuff all the time. You know, they get trained to do sport, but they also get trained to deal with, you know, with media. And, you know, when you're in a sports team, I've worked around quite a few sports teams of high levels, and they have a media manager, you know, and like before they'll go into a press conference or something like that, they'll have someone, you know, whisper in their ear and say like, hey, dude, like you know, these are the topics that they're going to, you know, press, you know, the press is going to come and ask you some stuff, you know, and you got to, you don't speak about that, dude. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, they know how they're going to attack you. Be cool. So that's something that they've been brought up in, and so you know, some oaks may be dicks, but you'd imagine outside of it, like when they come out the other side and they start, you know, working as a presenter or whatever, like, you know, that's kind of the industry that they're in now. So they generally are quite cool.
I think it's very similar to what you said also, where like we as I'm going to say camera operator sort of providers, it's very much about the experience that we provide, and very similar for them. It's very much about the experience they provide as well. Are they nice to deal with and stuff, or they're only decent on camera? Because working with them is part of that whole thing. If it's again and again and again,
then they definitely won't get the jobs again. You know, it depends on, and there's some circumstances maybe, but like you know, if you're a dick, no one wants to be.
Yeah, if someone's always late or something like that, like they're not going to get invited back for these things. You said you've traveled around with quite a few sports teams and stuff as well. From my understanding, that's been like multiple weeks at a time where you've sometimes been away in foreign countries.
I haven't done too much foreign stuff, a lot of local stuff, but I've worked with a lot of, I mean, most of my work has been through like sports media. So I've worked around a lot of sports professionals, but yeah, sometimes away for, I don't know, a couple of weeks.
I've never had any sort of projects like that where I've had to go away from my home environment for like super long periods of time. Is that something that's very difficult to do, or does it strain you a bit? Or
no, it's cool, man. Like I think one of the like drives for me in this industry, which is like just a purely personal drive. I love traveling. So like one of my things is that I know that there's potential to travel in our work. So like, take me away, you know.
Yeah,
my
please.
girlfriend will hate that. Sorry, because she's probably going to see this. So no, it's cool. I mean, you know, one of the brands that I worked with was with the Proteas for a bit, and you know, I'm a massive cricket lover, so it was cool to be around the guys and, you know, and just blend. And I don't know, it's cool. If you get to go to different places, I like it. I don't mind. I'm quite easy. I like to travel. I like to see new stuff, and also I think in like the job that we just worked on in Prince Albert, bro. I mean, I came back from that, and it was only a handful of days. But my only thing I thought about was like what we were doing on a, you know, 1 minute to the next, which was unusual because, you know, you're back home in your comfortable space. Everything that you do, like all your shit that you're dealing with, is in your mind, bro. You know, like while you're working, whatever, anything that's bad or anything that's bringing you down, you're thinking about it. For those 4 days or 5 days, bro, I didn't think about any of that, and I came back with like how they call it, once you come back from Africa Burn, you get that after, you know, that afterglow, right? And I wasn't at Africa Burn, but I had that afterglow, which was dope. Like, you know, so I think that also provides you, in some circumstances, it provides you with that because you're on the, you know, you're nonstop. You know, when you do longer stints, you know, you're nonstop, right? So your mind can only think about what you're doing right there, and I think maybe it's cool. It's good if that's the way you like to operate. I like to jam it in and cram it in, and then I took a week and a half of leave afterwards, bro. So but
that's true though. I like the way you phrase it, where it's like a little kind of bubble to just focus on that and have it a bit of like a mind retreat in a sense, to just leave everything else behind a little bit.
Yeah, everything gets shut off, bro, like in you operating. I mean, I guess for other people are different. Like, I mean, I spoke with a guy not so long ago. I was working on a job I was on, and he goes off and he'll go off. He works internationally and cruise around, and you know, and he's away for a long period of time. But I think he's just got married, you know, and so like, when you're in that stage in your life when you have kids and that sort of thing, then maybe you don't want to, you know, you don't want to remove yourself. You know, there's moments that you don't want to miss, but you know, I'm still in this space.
Send those jobs to me when you get there.
You know what I mean? No, definitely. But you know, it's cool, right? You know, and if you get the opportunity, I had a real cool one recently, which was a free job. I paid for everything, but it was for an NGO. But it was dope. We went to Senegal, and I spent 1 week shooting this sort of dentist work that they were doing there, and then I spent another week cruising around on motorbikes through the jungle.
That's amazing.
It was dope. So it was, you know, it's a bit of a pill to swallow when it's expensive, but I mean, the vibe, you know, once you get through it, and the same situation occurred where, you know, I'm just thinking about my daily, you know, and operating and having fun, and you know, and if you get the opportunity to do your work, because so much of your work you like huffing and, well, for me, I'm huffing and puffing, you know, behind the desk, you know, because things are not going always according to plan, and that, or not. That's not always. That sounds bad, but you know what I mean. So the moment you get a job where it's a bit of vibes and it's away from home, and you get to see some new stuff, and it's pretty dope.
Always a bit of a special sort of way to learn new things. That's one thing that I really enjoy about this whole sort of creative enterprise, let's call it that, is like, especially working with different companies and stuff, because I've got quite an interest in entrepreneurship and stuff like that, is you get a really nice sort of in-depth view of some new things that you wouldn't see, or you travel somewhere new and you see a culture or some people that you never would have arbitrarily sort of wandered off to by yourself, unless you were kind of...
There's no ways I'm going to go to Senegal, bro, on holiday if I didn't go there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I could sit on the other side of the world, bro. So like, should totally like that.
100%, yeah. I mean, maybe some of us will go to Bali in our free time if we wanted to, but...
That sounds pretty cock, bro.
Yeah. I'm just escaping the worst of winter, really. That's it.
I think that's such a dream, though, as well. Like, especially if you don't love the cold, then to...
Yeah, exactly.
To go off to a summery destination.
Last winter, I mean, we had a bad winter, last winter. I was like, hell no, I'm not staying like the entire winter in Cape Town again. Like it's not on.
Yeah, no, 100%. You obviously, I think when you go to Bali, if you're going to work with any other people there or meet new people, it's kind of going to be like meeting them for the first time there, I imagine.
What do you mean?
Like any models or stuff that you might interact with or stuff like that. It's not like people that you're going to go with like as a crew.
Oh no, of course, yeah.
Bali.
It would be awesome if if I could build up like maybe a relationship or like a creative duo with somebody that we say, then it's easier also to pitch to brands. You could say like, hey, here's your model. I'm a photographer, videographer, whatever.
Like those travel couples that are all in one creative team /
I'll be your
influencer.
travel boyfriend, right?
Let's do it.
What have you found anything particularly useful with interacting with, I'm going to say, models or new people that you meet, like kind of on the day for the first time in a creative space where all of a sudden now you kind of need to work together well to get the best out of a situation? Is there anything that works really well there to like put people at ease and make people comfortable in front of a camera?
Yeah, well, I generally, like, if I know they're international models, I'll offer to pick them up on the way to the shoot. So it's because most of them don't have cars, they're Ubering and stuff, and most of them are staying like in town and like very close by to Clifton and whatnot. So that way I can go pick them up, like have a like little drive and a little conversation before you actually get down to shooting.
That's nice, because then you get a bit of kind of a period where
you get to like learn about them a bit and like just
Crack a
just
couple
chat.
jokes while you're shooting and stuff like that. Does that ease the vibe?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be
not
terrible if I had to do your job, bro. I'd be very uncomfortable, bro.
I don't know if I'm like cracking jokes. Maybe, not just random jokes out of the blue kind of thing to try and like ease the vibe or something. I think I'm just generally quite easygoing and make them quite comfortable. And generally, your first shots in like a model shoot are like pretty much always bad. Like you're not dialed in yet. The model's like not dialed in yet. Like by the time you're on your like second look, maybe like 20-30 minutes into a shoot, then you're starting to get good photos. You're like, okay, cool. And you show them the photos. That also helps. If you know you've got like 1 or 2 bangers, you could be like, hey, check these out. Like, look what we're getting so far. And they're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And then they feel more confident and they're like more chill. They're like, okay, cool. Like, what can we do now? And like, so I think, I don't know, people skills.
something that's has to be crafted slowly but surely, especially for us autistic types. When you're sort of working with people and getting sort of the best out of them in a photo sense, I feel like it's sometimes a little bit easier to kind of show people kind of what's being created and saying, okay, cool, this is looking great kind of thing. But I found it very, very difficult to do that in a videography sense, maybe because I've come from the like self-taught sort of environment where it's kind of fix it in post sort of situation. So it's always a case of, okay, cool, I know it's going to look good, but it doesn't look good now. Or I know it's going to look good if it's slowed down, but it doesn't look good now.
Yeah.
Like, Stark Lui, I'll direct this kind of towards you. Have you found a good way to kind of show people and keep them excited about content while you're going in a video sense? Because I can do it in a photo sense, but I find it very difficult to do it in a video sense for client work or people, just friends and stuff. It's very difficult for me.
Yeah, it's very awkward when you show them. They're like, no, when it's edited.
I promise it'll look good. Yeah, it needs a lot.
Yeah, I think all that works is if they've worked with you before, or if they've seen your work, just like make them, like remind them, hey, you've seen my work, you have seen it before. So like either you've worked with that person before or they just checked your profile. They on set, they might forget, but I just don't recommend showing, especially with video.
You can't, it's tough to show clients like log footage and be like, oh no, it's all gray and stuff, like, but don't worry.
Yeah,
it's not
if they
look
don't
like
have
that.
an understanding of what actually goes into the process, I find it very difficult.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because my skill sets aren't developed enough to like be technically good enough where it looks fantastic immediately.
Yeah.
I don't know if you find anything different.
I think that because it's a different thing, man. You're going for like your shots relatively the same. Do you know what I mean? You're moving around, but like with video, it's like you're moving from what, like in a run and gun scenario, right? But I think that where that helps is you've got a shot list and you've got a vision that you're trying to produce, and then you show them and they say, this is what we're trying to do. Like
just shoot one shot like super wide open f1.2,
This is what
and
you're
then
getting,
show
dude.
them that like a tight like close
Yeah.
of the super blurry background. They'll be like, okay, cool, like yeah, this looks pretty good.
I love what you're touching on there with the pre-production being a really important element there for a videography perspective or cinematography
I
to be able
think
to
like it
showcase that.
Look, it's so widely ranged. Like it depends on what you're doing. If you're running around shooting an event, like you're definitely not going to have someone over your shoulder being like, "Hey, dude, like, can I see this stuff?" But if you're going and you're shooting something that's narrative based, or it's or there's more structure to it, you certainly want to, if you're working on your own and you're the the start and the end of the production, you want to be as prepared as possible. But generally, if you're going into something that's been organized and planned, that you're running through the steps, so it's not a case of like, and I'm not in that space where I'm doing big narrative based stuff, but I've worked on a lot of big productions, and then obviously you've got directors and whatnot who are all sitting over the shoulder and looking at stuff, but the idea is that you've planned what you're doing already.
Yeah, you know what you're trying to get to. So
That doesn't really factor in, because they already are, everything's been built around trying to create that shot. Whereas the photo side, you're getting some stills and you can work through it, and it's much easier to go to someone and be like, "Hey, look what's going on,"
Yeah, absolutely.
But we cover our bases from the pre-prod. I don't know what it works with in terms of storyboarding from photography side of things. I mean, you obviously know.
Yeah, you have mood boards, and like you generally share like your ideas with the model, and they share their like what they want with you, and you sort of work based off that. You have some like, you call them inspo or like reference images.
Sure.
That you want
Pinterest
to
all
get.
the way.
Yeah, exactly.
What I found is, even when creating a treatment or doing all the pre-production thing to show the client how the shots are going to look and everything, you have a shot list or a storyboard. I figured same with what Matt said is, I think with our styles, we do a lot of things in the post-production. So a lot of my stuff would be like shooting at 120 frames per second, very slow, and then in post, like speed ramp the hell out of that thing. So I think that's very difficult to show to the client when they're asking like, "Oh, can I see the shots?" And they're like, "Oh, we have to, like, this is this shot on the mood board, but it has to be sped up." Any like in personal experience, if there's like a project you've worked on that has like tricky shots on how you can actually make the client feel more at ease?
No, I think it's the same. Like, look, I mean, if that's a request from the client, that shot initially, or it's an intention from you, you would have put that in your shot list. You know what I mean? So they would have understood it. If you are going in the sense of like, okay, you've planned your whole shootout. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think what I'm gathering from you is obviously like maybe it's something that you've thought up of.
No. Especially with a lot of the fashion brands I shoot with, it's these high fashion effects. So it's like a lot of After Effects, AI effects type things that happens in post-production. And even though you communicate it to the client like that, or show them a exact example of what you're going to do, or in some cases I would shoot with my wife and recreate just in the living room, and then we do the effects. I edit everything, show them just to see if they want to use it, so they know exactly, but I think it's just more they forget or they don't truly understand. And
I don't really have like, mostly the guys I'm working with are people that I work with, so they know what's going on. It's like you said, it's like people you've worked with, they understand. Be a bit in, I guess on commercial based stuff and narrative stuff, you're always going to have the director sitting there with their own monitor, and client producers sitting in the back there with their own monitor, and maybe there's some input there, and that actually helps, I guess, because they can see, that's the workaround, I guess, is that they're monitoring and seeing it live. but I don't normally work in that sort of space.
Some of those fashiony, transitiony videos are the hardest things to showcase. And I think that's what you're sort of touching on, where it's all a massive zoom transition or something in post with weird sort of effects coming up, but in person, it's someone just standing still with a static tripod cam and them doing like a little stomp on the floor. And if you watch that back, it just looks absolutely moronic. But it kind of comes to life with this whole social media-esque sort of like very fast and woozy sort of transitions and stuff.
I guess it's also too late at that stage, bro. They're gonna, sorry, bro, we're here and we're filming now, so just stand by.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you when we're done. Yeah.
One thing that's maybe very easy from a video standpoint to showcase to people is just interview setups, because that's very, very nice. If you've got a nice monitor and stuff, you just flip it around, you're like, oh wow, that looks amazing.
On it, bro. Yeah, that's about it right there, bro. If you get a nice, because if they, like you said before, if you can show one gangster
Nice
shot, bro, then everyone's like, sick,
put them
dude.
at ease.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
You're getting really, really good at your like interview setups and setting them up sort of nicely. Is there anything that you sort of developed as a good sort of like, not just gonna say like checklist, but like what makes a good interview? Real basics.
What are you asking me? What makes a good interview? I don't know if I'm the right person to say that. I've just been one interesting one, which what we had with on the last job we worked on, which is an interesting. And now it's standing out to me more so than not, is and I guess it's all really based on what your style is, but the eye line, okay, that's a really important thing, is especially the first cam. Your eye line's like important of like how you want it how you want it to be. But like I like to set the interview up right next to the camera, because the further away your interviewer is, the more you're shutting off the face of your talent. So like
it's just like turning more and more.
Yeah, so like you so like imagine the cameras are looking here and I'm now looking like, even this shot here, I'm now looking towards you.
Yeah, it's like just a side profile.
Yeah, so that's not so cool. And you want to be seeing
from the interviewer's perspective.
Yeah, you almost want them looking down the barrel almost. You want to see their eyes. Especially we do all this nice lighting. Like there's eye lights and stuff. You really want to see all of that. So that's cool. And then your second position is obviously, if you're doing a 2-camera setup, it's I guess more. It gives you, I don't want to say more of an artistic choice, if you want to call it that, but you can decide where you want it to be. But I'm finding it more distracting if I'm separating them further from one another. So yeah, and then I guess also just from a lighting perspective, I don't know, turn off all the lights inside the room. I guess that's like kind of what I've seen from what I've watched on YouTube, like turn everything off and look at your light that you have, and then
start adding in after.
Start plugging in from there.
On the eyeline note, there was something I saw on Dan Mace. He did a big tutorial about how he went about creating one of the Mr. Beast philanthropy sort of mega YouTube videos, like a 2.5 hour tutorial. It was mega, very cool.
Yeah,
one of the
I've
things.
got to say, it's sitting there, and I'm
Have you watched it?
No, it's on my. When you got like
Watch
100
later.
tabs, it's sitting there.
It's actually really, really good. He did a tremendous job of it. But one of the things, especially with all our cams here with the little flippy screens, what he did is basically you turn that around, you put with gaffer tape a little X on the little flippy screen, and that's where the person should look if there's not someone who they can visibly sort of make eye contact with, and that keeps the eye just off of camera, but like as close as you can kind of get it without being like looking into the lens.
Well, it also comes down to what the point of the interview is, because if you are, like I was talking about it now, I'm doing this like little thing with for my mate, he's a beekeeper. I'm just testing. I bought a new set of lenses, of vintage Zeiss lenses the other day. So I'm just running tests on them to see.
They're super cool. They're quite wacky.
They are quite the movement, and it makes it look odd. Well, I haven't yet watched any of the footage that I've done with it, but I'm busy cutting through it now. But I want their video to be like talking to the customer, giving a bit of insight about themselves, as opposed to talking to well, we'll see how it goes, but you almost want, in that circumstance, it depends on what your point is are you speaking to the viewer? Because if you are speaking directly to the viewer, you're looking straight down the line. But if you're giving some more informational stuff, you're going to be talking to an interviewer, you know. And another thing as well is like, and I've made this mistake, especially with running gun, things are going fast, is like, and you know, once you push record, I'm barely listening to what you're saying. Like I'm really focusing on the camera, and I don't know why, because nothing's changing the whole entire time. But I'm really focusing in on trying to make sure everything's looking nice.
I think it's our nervous apprehension for the A7's overheating things. We're
please
watching
don't go.
we're watching for the little temperature things.
From previous experiences.
Yeah. But sometimes your interviewer like maybe standing up and your person's sitting down, and then you're like, you know, that person's talking like this, and it looks completely unnatural, you know. And that's kind of a something to pay attention to. And then one thing I saw like a famous DP speak about as well, I think it's Roger Deacon. I think he was speaking about using natural. And again, I think this is all up to like how the fuck you want to do it, like, you know. But if for him, it's using natural focal lengths. Like, don't put a 200 mil, chuck it back there, and then go for lens compression and over the shoulder. Like, if you want to, cool.
I've been very keen to try it with a 600 mil from like middle of nowhere.
It could, you know. But
That's
it's
a very
like
artistic
based on
decision.
like if you're working on a Red Bull shoot, bro, and like you want to get like super wild with it, you know, that's kind of something that they may appreciate. But like on a normal sort of, you know, you got to think about it from like, you can feel the distance, even though you zoomed in, you can feel the distance. You know that there's distance. You know that it's not a 35 that's sitting right there, you know. So for those kind of interviews, using it to make it feel natural, and you know, because you know, the minute that something is unnatural, you're gonna feel it as a viewer, whether you know it or not, and maybe that works for the end result and the artistic feel that you're going for, but you want to get someone to like fall into the visual, you know, naturally.
You mention a lot. Obviously, in videography, if you do it, it's a creative thing. So there's rules, and rules can be broken. But the one thing I've from studying interviews, when I had to shoot an interview or something, is a lot of people break those rules. Like they would give a lot of headroom in some of the angles. Do you think people like just do that more in a sense to look creative or to create a certain feeling, or more just because interview view sections can get quite boring visually, so they try to spice it up? Or is just more, like you said, do what works for you?
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel bad to like make it seem like I'm like a super knowledgeable person about this, but
The most knowledgeable out of the four of us. So
I
the voice of authority here.
I think like I think it's, you know, I do that as well, bro. I think it's good to test stuff, you know, and when it comes to like, if you've got a job that allows you to be a bit more free, like just try it, bro. Like try something different. And that headroom thing, it's cool, bro. But then you got to look at what lenses you're going to use to you know, what focal length you're going to be on to make that work, you know, because you've got to remember what everything.
You basically break the rules, but still there has to be reason. Like you can't just break the rule, break a rule, but there's still a technical thing to it.
Yeah, I think so, but I also think, dude, if it looks like it works, bro, then that's cool, man. Like let it go, bro, and definitely interview setups can look lame, but I mean, a lot of the work that I end up doing and stuff is like shoot. You know, we will go work with a brand, and the interview is kind of your A roll, if you want to call it that. It's like your, you know, it's your main, it's your structure to the narrative, and you know, it's cool to cut away to B-roll shots, and it's nice to you know, have all these other things, but it's really nice to have a strong visual that you can cut to, because if anything, and this is what Matt and I were doing on the last job, everything else was out of our control, bro. The one thing that you can have control over is make that look dope, dude. Because that's like really where, you know, you can truly like work on. And also you get the opportunity in an interview when you're shooting exteriors all the time, you get an opportunity to play with lights and that I think that's the sort of the idea of cinematography is like crafting light. So like if you have that opportunity to really play with it and understand something, because neither one of us are working on big productions where we've got a lighting crew and we can see these guys do 30 different setups in a day, and then that's where if you can get into that, that's where you're going to learn the most. But we don't have that time, so let's play with the lights in the interviews,
Have you guys worked on like big sets, like film sets or commercials and stuff?
I started so we were making a joke earlier, and
I've got a whole botany studio going on here.
about the plants. I started off it's a real thing. It's got a greensman, and it's like I did 2 jobs and it was shit. But I started off in the industry doing that, where you work with the art department setting up plants. But
So greensman just sets up plants.
Yeah, but it's serious. Like, dude, you say you're on the beach and now we need palm trees, bro. Those will bring trucks with trees, dude. So like, well, for me it was obviously my first job, so it was low paying and it was like a lot of effort. So really fuck that. But I then worked as a special effects technician for 3 seasons, 3 and a bit seasons here in Cape Town. So on a more big Hollywood sort of based series and stuff like that. So I had not a lot. I had some good amount of experience with big productions, and that's cool. That's a place like, YouTube is great, and you learn a lot in YouTube, but there is the diminishing returns kind of effect. And if you can latch on and jump on to like production, you're on for 4 months. Your 4 months, you work, every day. Maybe you get a day off or 2 days off with a minimum of 10 hours, turns into 14 hours a day because, you're rapping and all this sort of stuff. And you've got to be, on location, call times are early or before you start rolling, that you work so much. And it's unfortunate because I didn't work in the camera department, and I was blowing stuff up and doing, that sort of stuff with the SFX, and that was dope. But it's unfortunate I didn't work in the camera crew because I think I would have
learned a lot.
A lot, yeah. But it's hard now to make the change over to that because now you've got to. And again, to everyone who is in that place, and if I'm talking shit, then I'm sorry. But the way I see it is like, to get in there, it's completely different. You the boss now of your vibe. Maybe there's someone else. There's like producers or directors and stuff, or the bigger honchos that are on your gigs, but they're not big. When you get into the film sets, it's a whole other world, bro. And in the camera department, you starting off as like a loader. You're not going to be a fucking DP, my bro. You know what I mean? And for a long time, you got to work your game. You know what I mean? So you gotta get into that, and that space, I think, is a different place.
But that's also a very fun thing, because I've tried to build up in the cinema world of things like films. So I did a few as like a loader or just like a camera assistant or something like that, and I actually like the difference, because it's not like a corporate production company, and it's not like being a freelancer. It's this entire thing where there's 50 people working, and you have your one job, and everyone can focus only on that one job. Obviously, here and there you'll lend out a hand, but I like the film sets.
It's dope. If you can get into and operate in there, that's dope.
Yeah, but even that's what I wanted to say, is the having to start from the bottom. It's like a very cultural thing where people are proud if they've started from the bottom and worked their way up. So I think that makes it difficult, because if I want to go into that industry more like seriously, then I also have to start from the bottom and work my way up. But
kind of like being an accountant and going into Alan Gray or one of the big four accounting firms, and you kind of have to go through the ladder sort of system and eventually
but
work your way up.
the film guys, they I have a few friends in the film industry, and they love it that you have to, like, it's a hierarchy and all that things. But that's probably why they do that and not the stuff that we do. I actually have a question for you. Now, this can be quite controversial, so just if you feel you want to cut it out. When did you start the photography, like shooting models?
Where did I start?
Yeah, when specifically? Yeah.
It would have been like, it was actually, I think, in winter of 2021. So yeah, I've been doing it for.
You do bikini shoots in the winter, bro.
No, not. I mean, yes,
No.
but also not quite. Probably coming out like from September or something. I'm just thinking when I started with photography, and then I did some model shoots first before I did bikini shoots.
Because that was close to the Me Too movement, right? Like 2021, right?
Basically, yeah. No,
Okay.
more or less.
Because especially the question that I have is, did you receive a lot of backlash for shooting bikinis? Because I know a lot of friends got like called out on the stupidest little things just because they were bikini photographers, dudes shooting.
No, I wasn't called out. Not in any way in that movement. I've been criticized by very conservative family members and whatnot, as I'm sure everyone who would be in this kind of line is. But no, nothing.
Because I stopped shooting bikinis because of that. No, none of the
It's
things.
the Me Too movement.
This is where it gets a bit touchy. So it's basically everyone that's like after COVID, I think it was like after the George Floyd thing as well. A lot of girls came out. Basically, like a girl came out saying that she was raped or sexually assaulted,
I see.
and then all of the girls basically like, me too. I mean, like it happened to them as well. Came out of it, but a lot of guys, especially in the bikini side of things.
Were the models then accusing the photographers of like sexually assaulting them or something?
So it's just that's the thing. Obviously, this is also where the different opinions comes in. But a lot of it was just plainly because they were shooting bikinis, because it's a guy shooting bikinis.
Yeah, well, I don't see what the grounds is of what are you accusing them of? You know.
I don't know. The thing is, I think people back then were so touchy. Like a lot of guys, like accounts got removed and stuff because people started reporting them.
Interesting.
I also like the one guy during the thing. I don't know if it's false or whatever, but they also lifted the girl to the shoot, and then for some reason everyone's like, that's not cool. You can't lift the model to the shoot, to or from the shoot.
I think if people are specifically acting sus, then they're going to get called out for acting like a
Exactly.
knobhead.
Yeah.
But I think provided the purpose of any sort of content creation is not purely for sexualization of people, unless it's in the porn industry.
Of course.
But that's what people think a lot of the bikinis as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean,
Or do
I
you-
guess
don't you really-
they are like, but I think it's also just very like, just generally like very conservative people might have that sort of skewed perception of it, and sort of anything where there's like a bit of skin showing, they're like, oh no, like this is so sexual and it's pornographic and stuff, and I mean. What can you say? I can't change like how you like culturally are like brought up to see these kinds of things. Like I'm that's not my intention, and that's not what I do or shoot. And yeah,
I will say I've had the social media algorithm gods decide that I'm not going to say too sexual, but maybe too traumatic for the interwebs, where I've had one or two TikToks and a couple of speedos running around doing really retarded things, and they've decided, no, this is not appropriate for
Matt, no one
for
wants to
casual view.
see you in a speedo, dude.
I don't think it was necessarily a sexualization topic, but I think they just decided this is traumatic for general viewing in any
it's
case.
funny. Like I've also been like shadow banned on Instagram. So like when the feature came out where you could like see your account status basically,
Yeah.
and then you could see if your content can be recommended, and like if you like on all your checks.
I don't think shadow banning is a thing. I'll be honest.
So okay,
People report the bikini photographers.
Exactly. So it's not.
super. Why would
We'll
do
just
that, bro?
we'll just call it shadow banning, but I mean, you can see if you shadow ban basically. Like there is that metric to like check on Instagram on your page. So I then like when that feature came out, I guess, or maybe when I was awakened to that feature, I then checked on my account status and it showed you have content violations or like, you know, whatever content that can't be recommended to other audiences and stuff. And I checked on there and it's just like literally like random normal like bikini shots. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So it was one of the reasons I actually got Meta verified. I like bought the paid like business subscription was to get the like extra support on my account, because it was like every time like I peeled the post, it would come up with like 5 new posts that were like now banned or you know flagged, and I ended up getting the subscription, and then I
Does it come with additional support?
Yes, yeah. So I actually like had a call with a guy that worked for Meta, and he checked all my stuff, and he said basically somebody is just reporting all your stuff that you post. They're just like tagging it, and
They
it's
couldn't tell you who it was.
they can't tell you who it was. Yeah. And then it just automatically like goes into this thing where Instagram doesn't show it to anyone other than your audience. So it's not like banned where your followers can't see it, but it won't put it in any explore, or like your profile won't come up in the search, all that stuff. And
That's
so,
why I also went out of the bikini thing.
yeah, but he just said like just appeal it, and like I've checked the stuff, like it's all like 100%. Just appeal it, and we'll remove it as you go. And if it comes again, just keep appealing it. We'll sort it out in a day or so.
I really think swimwear brands must have the hardest time doing any sort of marketing on socials, because everything just gets flagged and banned and
exactly
like, shut down.
I think working with professionals, like professional models, and not just like these wannabe models that contact you. I'm pretty sure you only work with like pro.
No, I don't only work with pros. I work with normal people as well that just book shoots because they're paying clients, and I can't. It doesn't make sense for me to say no, you can't have a shoot with me. So I work with all sorts, but yeah.
Okay.
That's a weird thing with socials, how different people view different types of content in triggering sort of ways or not, and all of that. But I mean, I
You
guess
could also have someone who doesn't. I mean, in your case, someone probably like could be another photographer or something, and they're like, bro, I don't dig that you're doing better than me, bro. So I'm
that's what generally what you'd think is it's probably a hater. It's not someone who's genuinely offended by what you're posting. It's somebody who's like trying to get your account, not
or just a random personal vendetta.
I've commented like just on like a meme page, something like there's this one specific comment of like a guy that fell his tooth out and then like made a joke, like a very famous mountain biker, and I commented comedy 10 out of 10, teeth like 31 or 32 or something because they had a tooth missing, and the people took that so personal they started reporting my account.
That's big, dude.
So weird.
So, and like if you look at my account, you can see I'm just a photographer, but people for some reason thought, and I mean, I love the guy, like the mountain biker is like sponsored mountain bike and everything. So I was like, oh, I'm a fan, but this is a funny thing, which I'm going to comment. It's so innocent and so, but for some people just took it so personal.
Context just gets like grabbed and just removed completely.
Yeah, to the point where they like start wanting to get my account banned.
Do you think we're in a very competitive industry? This is an open-ended question.
I've found like as almost like a newbie coming into the industry, I've found it very supportive, and like people that are in the industry, other creators and whatnot, everyone like is keen to offer advice and help and assist with jobs and work and anything. So I've found like instead of it being ultra competitive and everyone's gatekeeping whatever their stuff is, it's the opposite.
I have one gatekeeping thing which I want someone to tell me where I can get these things, but it's not that I've already asked the question, but I actually haven't done too much research into it. But sound design is like such a big thing for editing, and there's certain guys who are like, in Cape Town, there's some really good, well, around the world, but there's some really good editors. And they have these sound effects that they use, like very subtle sound effects, but I don't know where they get them, bro. So if anyone is watching, please.
There's a pack from Bryn North.
You gave it to me already, I think.
No, I didn't.
Sorry.
Cut that. I did no such thing. But for me, he's got some awesome
Okay,
sort of
I'm gonna go
effects in
through
there.
that then.
Yeah, no, he's got some really, really lacquer ones. But someone gave that to me as well. So
Stuff
anyway.
like Artlist. Stuff like Artlist, the foley and sound design they have on there, it's terrible.
Oh, it's not bad, bro. There's a lot of, you know
found it okay.
Find something like specific. They either go like the extreme to the cliche, where it sounds like we say whoosh, it just sounds like this cartoon whoosh. So I personally, today I was recording in Foley for like just a fitness. Yeah, I took a jacket and it was the punching, like her body, just like the. So I just like took a jacket, put the mic there, and was like looking what's happening and just like ruffling the jacket. And I figured that's easier to do because you complete your editing and then you just record as it goes, the way they do it on film sets. And then you don't have to fine tune afterwards. You just record it once. Maybe it takes 2 or 3 tries. So all my whooshes and stuff is also self-made.
I always think
a
that I
lot
can do
easier.
that, but it's just like, bro, like by the time that you've spent 5 days on this edit, and now I need to go and fucking make some noises in my mind.
But it's much. It's personally in my experience, it's actually quicker because now you have to go download. Oh, here's a punch sound effect that I like. Download, drag, drop, match, volume, cool. Next punch one. So then it continues. But if you just record everything, where usually sound design would take me 2 hours for like a 30-second video, it now took me 25 minutes.
I've seen a couple of BTS videos. I don't know who it was. Oh, it's some big time movie guy who makes all the sound effects for like the big movies, like big action scenes and stuff. He's got like they're doing like a punch scene or something like that, and he's got like a steak lying on the table. He's like just slapping this thing. And his face is like contorting, like he's getting off on this. Like, oh. Wow. he just starts heaving
eating
from
his
this.
meat, eh?
That's the social media caption, your face that you just made now.
No, it's sound design is a real sort of art. One of the guys who was on previously, and a good mate of mine, who I think a couple of you guys know, is Ollie Amos. He's really, really good with a lot of his sound stuff. And then he's got a friend, Jason Windy, who does a lot of the sound design stuff for a lot of the Dan Mace videos and a lot of other movie scores and stuff like that. Absolutely tremendous. And I mean, some of these like guys with the musician sort of background can do such amazing things.
Yeah.
You play guitar quite a bit though.
Yeah. I also have a bit of a music background.
So that should help decently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much it will help with sound design. Maybe I've just got a decent ear for it, I guess. But it helps with recording musicians and shooting concerts and things. Yeah.
No, as long as you understand the whole thing. I'm gonna give sort of a wrap up sort of question here to end this all sort of nicely. More so because I haven't mastered it myself. And I like to learn from all the people that I bring onto this and from you guys. And I've got you cornered here, so you can't run away from me. You can, but I'm hoping you're polite enough to sit down and answer. Working as freelancers, it's kind of an all-encompassing sort of thing where sometimes there's a bit of, maybe it's internal pressure where you feel like if I feel like if I'm not working, then there's nothing sort of coming in. And it's like if you take a day off, if you go on holiday, then it's kind of an opportunity lost. And it's very difficult sort of finding that work-life balance type of thing. How do you guys sort of find that task as a sort of freelancer? How do you find balance in what you're doing, and how do you find time to still enjoy things and being able to switch off fully versus kind of just go the whole time?
Tough question.
There's always silence after this question. I've asked it twice, and there's always just silence afterwards, generally because I don't think there's any balance.
It was basically what I was saying earlier is having just come into it now, that is the thing to work out, and that's the mental game that you've got to figure out is, am I working enough? Am I, doing enough for it? Okay, it's all right to like take a break now and like leave it. You're not gonna, fall behind and be broke, and like all those self-doubt things come into your mind all the time when you take any kind of time off. So I think finding your own routine, and I think it's more of like a mental thing for yourself, that you've got to like work out and just back yourself and like trust that you're doing what needs to be done, and it'll work out in the end.
I haven't given away your secret identity. I'm very proud of myself.
Thank you. Sure, this is one of the biggest things I think as a creator or a freelancer is finding balance, not burning out, the imposter syndrome. Like, these are some of the biggest problems or questions we all have. And I think with myself is I almost ran myself into depression trying to force a routine or trying to force certain balance. That's not because I was forcing the lifestyle I think I wanted instead of the one that's I'm already living. And I think that's what most people don't understand is, if I look at you guys, or you, Matt, specifically, you work, you're always working. I always see you working, and from my side, it looks like you have this perfect 9 to 5, but or you like 5 in the morning until 2 in the morning, like working on a project that needs to be delivered. And it's so easy to look into someone else's life or like they're behind the scenes and think this is how they're living. A lot of people come to me and be like, "Oh, you're always working, you're always working." And I'm like, I actually only just work like 2 or 3 days of the week and that's where the balance came in, is I only work when I feel like I can do the work. Obviously, if there's a tight deadline, depending on certain things, then I just have to push through. But I always aim to, if I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like I want to edit, then I don't edit. If I don't feel like doing certain admin things, if it doesn't have to happen immediately, then I think you can. And I think I'm also just blessed being able to do that with the clients and type of work that I'm doing. I can start editing at 8 at night. And if that's what I want to do, I think people should get out of their head that it has to happen now, and rather work on times where you are productive instead of having to force being productive.
That's very, very true. Mike, any secrets from you?
Yeah,
How do you keep happy?
I think there's two things. Like, I think like just because you're not on a shoot day or edit day, it's still work. The problem with working in a 9 to 5, and I was working in that before, and you know about that. The problem with it is that the employer, whether they're good or bad. I was lucky I had really good employers, and I still do a lot of work with them. Really awesome guys. But the issue is that you lose like so much time of your life to do shit that you need to do. And an admin is maybe looked at as like personal stuff, but that's work, man. Like so like at the end of the day, mostly I'll work a 5-day week, if not more. But it's not that I'm gonna be working on a job for 5 days. Mostly it will be, but in those, like now in the times, I've had a bit of free time. I've been doing admin stuff and everyone's got that list of shit that's sitting in the back of your head and causing you more anxiety than it needs to. And to find that time, when you're doing a 9 to 5 is like, okay, weekends or evenings, which is shit because you come home, you hang out with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your family, or your whatever, your dog, and so like, it's still, to me, in my mind, I still look at it as work. But on the other side is, for me, I can't really get my head around, we're all trying to make money and save for the future, and I think we're blessed in the industry that we're in, that you can charge money for what you do. It's not cheap. So you work and you work those extra hours to allow yourself to enjoy yourself. And I don't look at I struggle to wrap my head around like saving a lot of money for when I'm 60 years old so that I can go and do what I want to do right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if I see an opportunity, that I will take that opportunity to go and enjoy and to travel and to surf and to hang out, because I am living a happy lifestyle, you know, by doing this. And I you know, the FOMO of like not going to do that one thing when like I probably could squeeze it in and it'd be like a little bit difficult, but I probably could do it and still manage all my stuff. That would be worse for me to look back and be like, why didn't I do that? I don't know, because I'm not that age yet, and if I make it to that age, then whoopty whoops. But yeah, I think like I do beat myself up a little bit, but it'll last for like an hour, and then once I'm doing that thing, then I forget about it completely and just take it full advantage, you know.
Yeah, I think also people should remember that, especially in photography and videography or any creative thing, is if you get burnt out doing stuff that you don't really want to do, or you're like confused with finding the balance, like that was the question, right? Like finding balance is because a lot of time, also with me personally, is when I start to feel burnt out, it's not necessarily because I'm doing more work, it's because I'm doing more work of things I don't want to do. So and that's also part of the balance, is it's okay to say no to a higher paying gig if it's not necessarily something you have to do. I'm not talking now because everyone's like, yeah, but if you need the money, then you have to. Yes, okay, but that's not necessarily everyone's situation. But if you're in a situation where you're lucky enough to pick and choose, I would actually recommend to pick and choose, because I think in our industry, if you see someone else, this guy did 7 shoots this week and I only did 2, so he's doing more than me. I should do more. I should book more shoots. You don't know what the budgets are. You don't know what the arrangements are. You don't know.
And a guy could also be cucking himself as well, being like, well, this is so shit, I don't know why I'm doing this. Exactly. But, yeah.
And that's also why I actually try to stay away from looking what Ollie does, because if I look at what Ollie does, I'm like, damn it, man. Yeah. But then I just realized, hey, I like you said, if you want to go surf, then you go surf. And most mornings I wake up and I'm like, hey, I want to go to this coffee shop with my wife, and that's what I want to do. And work can wait an hour or so. There's nothing.
You prioritize your life and your work in a correct way that day.
Yeah, and in most cases, if I take like 2 hours doing something that I wanted to do that day, then the rest of the day is so much more productive, where I can actually catch up with all my work and even do more, or the quality of work that I'm doing is so much more than just this mindless editing.
Touché. Well, I think that's the perfect spot to sort of wrap it up there. Guys, thank you so much for joining, all 3 of you. I look up to all of you. I enjoy working with you all tremendously. And thank you for coming to chatting with me today and sharing everything with everyone. To everyone who watched, thank you for joining us. And I hope this was vaguely entertaining.